welcome to another episode of
80-Bit Podsmash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer. We are your hosts,
Penguin and Termite,
and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together the ideas of culture, politics, science, art, and some of the other things that you care about, or more highbrow conversations with video games.
Highbrow, yes, we're very...
And they're not actually highbrow. I say that with air quotes.
Very.
And I don't know why you sound like a very, very elderly man.
Also, all I kept saying was, oh, yes, very, 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 very.
Oh, you were just saying the word very.
Yeah, that's really all I was saying.
Nice.
I was trying to improvise a line, and, you know, my talents failed me, as they are wont to do. So, tonight, we are drinking a very special, very amazing beer that, if you've never had it and are a beer fan, you're missing out, Joe.
It is a limited release every year on Black Friday from the lovely brewer Goose Island called Bourbon County.
It's so good. I remember my first encounter with Bourbon County was when I was just getting into beer and was still not really into it yet, so I hadn't even really gotten a taste for stouts, and someone handed me a sip of this.
Was that when you were working at Cab Ale?
No.
Okay.
This was when I was living back in Harrisonburg, so I was still working at the grocery store, Sharp Shopper.
Sharp Shopper.
That's
a name.
It's a great store. It's a great place to work. I've heard it's gone downhill since I worked there, but
you brought all the energy.
I liked it.
You were the best.
I was amazing. Yes,
you were the best.
I was great. Cart jousting is a thing that I did.
A lot of people have done that.
No, but I did it first.
That's the thing that you have done as well as the world.
Yes. Okay. Anyways, yes. So someone
Bourbon
handed me a glass of it. Not even a glass. It was like a sip of it, and it like knocked me on my feet. It's very boozy.
Mm-hmm.
But now that like my tolerance for alcohol has sort of increased, it's not. I think to myself, and I'm like, why did I think it was so like? To me, I reacted to it like drinking whiskey.
Oh, really? Like,
yeah. Oh, wow, that's so strong, you know. But now I'm like, yeah, this is nice. It doesn't even taste that boozy to me anymore. Right. It's mostly all of the other flavors, which are very chocolatey.
It smells like chocolate. Like I smelled it. And it's like a straight up dark chocolate bar.
I was like when I first took a sip of it, I was like, it almost tastes very caramelly this year, like more caramelly this year than I think it did previously.
Yeah, the booze levels toned down. There's a lot more sweet forward.
It definitely tastes like candy.
Yeah. Yes. Lots of chocolate, lots of caramel, and maybe a little anise, which is that licorice type taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus beer and stout.
Yeah.
And bourbon. Because it's a bourbon barrel stout. So it's amazing. Every year it's a little bit different. Some people get into aging them. The last time we have had this was actually our beer pairing episode.
Yeah, we did talk about it. So it tastes like liquid darkness because what did we pair it with last time?
Eternal Darkness.
Requiem. Sanity's Requiem. The old classic GameCube game. Yeah,
it was awesome.
Horror game. It was very fun.
Dark and boldy.
Tonight we are going to be talking about developer decision making or more development decisions, I suppose.
Don't you have a cliche title for this?
I do. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes.
There is a very specific controversy that is happening in the gaming industry right now, which we'll talk more about when we get more into the topic. But I wouldn't say it alone sparked this episode. This actually has been on our topic list for a year. Mm-hmm. It was one of the ones we jotted down when we first were coming up with topic ideas. But my first initial examples, I didn't feel were very strong.
And we didn't have enough.
And we didn't really have enough of them, yeah. And so we were really kind of talking about some controversies from 2017.
But that just have the game developing industry handed us some
has the controversy.
Good ones.
I was going to say, back in 2017, we mostly had like good and bad examples. But we didn't really have any ugly ones until now.
Yep.
So we will stop teasing you and just say that we're going to be talking about development decisions. They're more probably accurately described as marketing decisions.
Yeah, kind of on the PR front.
Yeah, much more PR.
Messaging,
so I guess another way of describing this episode would be just bad PR moves. But we're also going to be talking about some good PR moves too. Yeah. So we're going to try to hit some. We're going to try to give you some highlights. And just in general talk about PR or decision making that goes into the development cycle for a video game. Wowzers. That was a long intro. Let's talk about what's going on though. What's going on in your life, Termite?
I have been resurrected from the dead. I came down with the most and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, the worst sickness I have ever had in my adult life. I've cracked Dan up. He is dead. I've just killed Penguin.
You said it as I was taking a sip of beer, and I didn't want to spray it. So, but yes, that was funny.
I have overcome the worst sickness I've ever had in my adult life. I am in my 30s. I have never had the sorest throat that I just had this past week. So it's been 7 days today, counting.
Were you able to swallow liquids?
No.
Oh,
it hurt
gosh,
so bad.
Awful.
I don't want to get into
worst.
the details that were nasty,
sure,
choking and stuff. But I was out. I mean, laid out for over a week. I didn't even think I was. It was right after it was Black Friday was when I woke up with everything.
Yeah,
and.
Whew.
I was sick I took off work Monday, so it took 4 days, and then I had antibiotics on Saturday, and I didn't start feeling 100% till Wednesday. And I went for a run on Wednesday. It was great.
Yeah.
I felt 100% again.
Nice.
And then I went for a run this morning, so I'm back.
I wouldn't say you're 100% because you're staring at me with your troll eye right now.
I do have an eye that is very reminiscent of the character from the Goonies.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about? What is his name?
I don't remember.
Oh, it begins with the S. It's like Snuff. Stout. I don't know. What's his name?
But you got like a blood vessel ruptured in your eye right now, so you've got this. He's staring at me.
It looks like it, and you would think it's from like throwing up, but no, it's pink eye. It's straight up conjunctivitis as a result of I had a double ear infection, so that's each ear, and then I had tonsillitis as well. So everything in my sinuses was a giant infection, and I had 102 degree plus fever. So I had fever dreams. I was dizzy, and my resting heart rate was 90 plus beats per minute. It was ugly.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Yeah. He had a rough time. He had a rough time of it.
I was not very happy about that. So I'm glad to be back.
Are you still literally just looking up a character from
Sloth.
the Goonies?
Yes.
Sloth.
That's his name. Yes, I was looking up the Goonies character. I look like him. I don't actually look that bad.
Gosh, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm excited about Smash is coming up.
That's it.
When
By the time this airs, you guys long past that.
It'll be old news. Probably everything we're going to be talking about today is going to be fairly old news. I'm excited about the holidays coming up, and just in general, I don't know, things are going well. Things are going well with us. So we got more things to talk about. Yes, I am. I'm only 60%. I was trying to get through it before Smash comes out, and there's still hope for me yet because I still have next week and this weekend, and I don't have a ton going on this weekend, but I might have a ton going on this weekend. Does that make sense? So, for example, people in town now are throwing my wife a baby shower, so another baby shower, but I'm not invited to that one.
Okay.
So, but I also might have family coming up to attend that. So I might be hanging out with my dad all day tomorrow on Saturday.
And that means no Red Dead time.
Which will mean no Red Dead time, yes. But if he doesn't come up and I do have the whole day, that will be a significant amount of Red Dead time. Will it be enough time to complete the 40% of the game that I have left? Probably not.
You're in Chapter 6, right?
I am in I'm in the Beaver Hollow now.
Yeah, that's Chapter 6.
Is that 6? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Because when you come back from Chapter 5.
Yeah, when you come back from playing Uncharted.
Yeah,
when you come back from basically playing Uncharted.
There's a little bit of stuff that happens, and then you go to Beaver Creek, and that's Chapter 6.
Yeah.
So you are in Chapter 6. Yep. Did you just get there?
Yeah, basically. I just got there, yeah.
So I've been there. I've done a couple story quests since. I think I'm still just like an hour or two ahead of you.
Okay. Well, then I might catch up.
Some crazy stuff
Either way,
happened.
I probably won't finish it before Smash, but that's okay, because even though I will be sidetracked by Smash for a little bit, I consider Smash more of a multiplayer game. I consider Smash more of a get together with friends and play Smash.
Right. Not going to occupy your Red Dead time.
Not exactly. So I will then have time where I'll be like, okay, well, I want to play a game in the meantime, so I'll play Red Dead until it's done, and then I'll move on to the next game. So, all right. Well, I think it's time to go ahead and talk about our favorite things. Doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Favorite things. Yeah, so favorite things. What is favorite things? Favorite things. Let me say it more times. Favorite things, favorite things, favorite things.
Words.
Favorite things is our first segment of every podcast where we just catch you up on the thing that we're digging this week. So it could be anything from something we ate, a show we watched, or a game we played. And it's just what we're super excited about and want to share with you so that hopefully you might find your next favorite thing.
My favorite thing, I was going to say is Sudafed. Because it helped me survive death this past week. But I'm going to go back to an untitled card game that I don't know the name of that was introduced to me by way of one of our listeners. James, are you listening? It was that DC game that you introduced us to. That's a deck building game. So it's like I compare it to Dominion because you open up a giant box and you have a bunch of cards laid out for everybody, and the whole point of the game is to build yourself a deck that then wins.
Okay.
So it's a deck building game, DC superheroes, which I normally don't like because I don't like the DC universe at all. But this was surprisingly fun with superpowers and punches and kicks and like heroes and villains and supervillains and stuff, and all these cool things you could do to like build up your deck. There's different strategies you can take. Go for the equipment or go for the powers or go for the villains. It's pretty cool. I don't really know how to describe a game that's of cards.
Who shared it with you?
James. You don't know him.
Oh, okay.
But he came up to visit.
Thanks, James.
He's in Colorado.
Gotcha.
A childhood friend of ours. And I say ours, my brother and mine.
Oh, okay.
Not yours.
Well, I was more thinking like you and Alex, and I was like, but wait.
Oh, no, yeah.
You guys met in
He
college.
was at our wedding.
Cool.
Yeah.
So DC...
It's a DC Universe card game, and he needs to hook us up with the name.
I was going to say, we'll share it with you guys later when we know what the name is.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Tell me what the name of that game is, James.
Yes. What's that games, James?
That's my favorite thing.
That's your favorite thing.
It should be this beer, though.
My favorite thing, though, is really similar. Like, it's a similar thing.
Yeah?
So I played a board game this past weekend with our friend Matt, who joined us on our MOBA episode.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys will recognize Co-opetition Matt. He brought over a new game that just came out. It was another legacy game. So it's another one of those board games that's meant to be played multiple times in a campaign that changes. You rip up cards, you write in permanent marker, all that fun stuff.
They're so fun.
But it's based off of a previously existing game called Betrayal House on the Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we mentioned it in our podcast about board games or not.
Is that the one where you have a dude who's like the bad guy?
Yeah, so you like
and
first
there's the haunt.
Yeah, the haunt. So like first you sort
gosh,
of
we played that too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We played the Dungeons and Dragons version of that.
Did we?
No, not you and me. James did. Yeah. It was awesome. We had a good time. But anyway.
So anyways, like the way the game is normally played is you are the initial mode of the game is that you're exploring the house, and then at some point someone stumbles across an item or stumbles across a room where they trigger what's called the haunt, and then someone, it may not be that person who stumbled across the thing, but someone then becomes a traitor, they become a monster, or they've been a monster all along, and then the whole game becomes a fight for survival. The survivors are trying to, like, you break into two camps, and one person's a betrayer, one person's a survivor, then everybody else is the survivors.
Each has their own goals.
And you have different goals, so the game completely changes. Anyways, this goes even further, and like, then you have like generations. So the game starts in 1666 with these members of each person's playing a member of a family, and then they might die, they might live, but either way, it's then taken up. Each game is 30 years later. So 30 years later in the same house, and like new evil haunting things keep happening to these people. So it plays the same as a betrayal game with the added thing of like, you might get like a bucket that your ancestor had, and then you get a special benefit because it's the bucket that your ancestor had.
Nice.
So there's like an heirloom feature. It's pretty cool. So, but what was great about it was the prologue introduces you to the game and gets you used to not only playing the game, but also gets you used to those sort of legacy elements. And something happened. I won't spoil it because I do want anybody listening to this their interest is piqued by me describing this game. I literally cannot spoil what happens to the story for you because it will literally change everything of the way you perceive it. But I will just say that something crazy happened. A big twist happened that was super awesome. It was one of the best ways I've ever seen this kind of thing handled in a board game before.
Sweet.
And
this is relatively new. It came out last month.
It came out very recently. Yeah, it was. I think it just came out because I think Matt pre-ordered it. So
nice.
Either way, like, things happened. It was incredible. My mind was blown. I was like, I never saw that coming. And you guys you should check it out. It was really, really fun. So definitely one of the better legacy games.
And what's it called?
I played Betrayal Legacy.
Nice.
The original game, if you don't want to play the legacy one where things change, maybe you have a thing against ripping up cards or writing on them with permanent marker. The original game is called Betrayal House on a Hill. But what's nice about Legacy is that, like, the guy who made the Legacy version also was he was involved in the original, so he's had like 15 years to kind of
refine this thing?
refine it. So it's much more, the Legacy version is, at least in regards to playing the actual game, is much more streamlined.
Nice.
And it's all new haunts, like all new stories and stuff. It's
Rock
pretty cool.
on. I want to play.
Yeah, very fun.
I want to play it.
It's short too. Are Seafall, like for example, Seafall was like 3-hour games,
right.
and same thing with Gloomhaven. Like they're all super long games.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's nice about this is that they're like 45 minutes to an hour each session. So you could like, if you get together with your friends for 2 hours, you can knock out 2 sessions. And
what's the minimum and maximum players?
5.
You have to have 5?
5 is the max.
What's the minimum?
The minimum I think is 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So
because if I pick up a copy and my wife and I play, how many more do I need?
I would just play with another couple.
That'd be fun.
Like, I mean, it's best with 5
Yeah.
because some of the haunts can be kind of unbalanced. There's like 15 haunts or something, like 15. So they're all, some of them might be easier for the betrayer if there's only 3 other people. Some of them might be easier for the survivors if there's, you know what I mean? So there is something to be said about playing with the intended number of players. But you could probably get away with playing with 4 people if you found like another couple who were interested in it. So
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy that.
Do it.
I want it for Christmas. Tell everyone.
Show up. Maybe Santa will bring it to you under your Christmas tree. All right. That's favorite things. Let's move on to our next segment, which is DLC. Downloadable content is what DLC stands for. And it is the second segment of our podcast where we talk about kind of like a mini discussion, a sub discussion, a sort of fun little gimmicky thing.
A little piece of extra content that costs just as much as this podcast, which is 0.
So we're going to do another blank, another who would blank in a blank.
Who would blank in a blank.
Also known as blank.
I love it. Blank.
So the way blank works is he will come up with a contest, and I will come up with 2 characters. So I'm going to say specifically 2 characters from Christmas movies.
I'm coming up with the characters?
You're coming up with the contest.
It has to be characters from a Christmas movie.
And I have to come up with 2 characters from like the Christmas mythos, I'll say. Like the greater Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean
so
by that.
Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Rudolph,
Santa.
Frosty, yeah. I won't start listing them because I might pick characters that I want to do. So, yeah, the greater Christmas mythos I will pick.
As long as you pick the Heatmeister, I'll be good.
I'm Mr. White Christmas. I'm Mr. Snow.
Oh, I love that movie.
All right, so you pick the contest. I'll pick the Christmas
contest.
Coming up.
Ski slalom.
Ski slalom?
Yes.
Okay.
It's where you go fast, but you have to turn and be agile too.
Okay.
So it requires a level of fitness. You got some good hips, some knees, and some wrists.
So ski slalom, like just skiing down a mountain.
Well, the slalom is the the Olympic event where you have to go through the flags.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
You have left, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, right. You know, and you have to like go to. And it's usually there's bumpy hills. It's not flat, so it's very difficult. It's like the hardest thing. I don't know if it's the hardest thing. To watch, it's crazy.
Christmas characters are Krampus and the Ghost of Christmas Past.
From which version?
Just from Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol.
But I think of the Muppet one.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of described as like, I've seen the Ghost of Christmas depicted as like a child, and I've seen the Ghost of Christmas Past depicted as like a candle flame. That was from like the Jim Carrey.
Oh, wow.
Disney version.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's really all I don't remember.
Muppets one's right in the middle.
I don't remember
it's a child that is like a candle flame.
I don't remember how Dickens described her exactly.
You haven't read that this year yet? Don't you do that every year?
Oh yeah, you know me. I'm just so
literary.
I am. That was what our last episode was about. I guess between the two of us, sure. So, but no, I don't read Charles Dickens every year.
Well.
I do watch Muppet Christmas Carol every year, though,
yeah,
so fine. We'll go with the Muppet Christmas Carol specific version of The Ghost of Christmas Past.
That's what I'm talking about.
And Krampus from the movie Krampus.
That's ridiculous. We need to watch that again this year,
I know,
by the way.
That would be great.
So in a slalom, Krampus is going to win. Like, he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's a super towering beast. It's super fast, and you just destroy the whole hill. He just... and he'll hit every flag.
Yeah. I feel like The Ghost of Christmas Past... also would just be disqualified because she can't use skis.
Yeah, she's flying.
She's already flying too, exactly. But I mean, she
even
does.
if she drifted between the flagpoles like a little spread.
But she does have powers over time.
So she could do it in an instant.
So she might be able to just like, boom, I've already done this.
Yeah.
Like, whoops, I warped everyone to the past. Sorry, I'm going to win now. Mm-hmm. Whoops, Krampus.
Or Krampus would just turn the course into oblivion.
Yeah, that's the question. Does one magical Christmas being have the power to use their power over another magical Christmas being?
Oh, they're not going at the same time.
What? Oh.
Ski slaloms, skiers competing in the slalom.
I see. They each go a different.
Don't go at the same time.
See, in my mind, I thought they were like racing, but you're right. I guess
it's a time trial.
Time.
Yeah, they are racing,
but she has powers over time. That's
right.
kind of
not cheating.
It's kind of cheating.
You picked the characters,
but we didn't lay ground rules. Yeah, but I didn't know what.
You don't know what a ski slalom
That's the
is?
whole point of Blank Flag was I didn't know what thing you were going to pick. All right. Let's verdict. Final verdict. Who would win in a ski slalom? Krampus or the Ghost of Christmas Past, specifically from the Muppet Christmas Carol?
The time manipulating witch.
Really?
Known as the
So you're
Ghost
changing.
of Christmas Past.
You're changing
She's
your
gonna
answer.
win. She can manipulate time.
You're right. I would go with the Ghost of Christmas Past as well.
I win in 0.00 seconds. 0.00.
Yep.
Right.
Maybe like for
and Krampus might annihilate the course in 0.01 seconds.
Yeah.
But still slower than her.
Still slower. Yeah.
Yep. So
okay.
she wins.
All right.
That's it.
Ghost of Christmas Past. That's it. Tell us what you think, listeners. If you know of some powers that Krampus has that you think like he'd pull out of his hat at the last second, then go for it. But being a demon that's mostly meant to scare and torment children into behaving well, although I guess the same could be said of the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. But anyways, whatever you guys know, whatever lore you'd like to pull out of your butt, that might let us know. Where can they find us? So let us know about their Christmassy blank.
You can find us at all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, at 80-bit Podsmash. No hyphens, no uppercases, lowercases, no funny business. You can go to 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website where we have links to Google Play and iTunes, as well as Spotify, and our RSS feed link is there. So any podcasting app you use, you can find us there.
Boom.
If there's a podcasting platform that we're not on that you want us to be on, let us know, and I will work to make sure that we're on that platform.
Yes, we will work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so main topic time.
Topic time.
What are we talking about today, Termite?
You already said it. It was the good, the bad, the ugly. It's developer decisions.
Yeah, I want to hear it from you, though.
I just said it.
Developer decisions. So what originally inspired this 2 years ago was I was whining about two things to you.
You whine a lot.
I do whine a lot. This is going to be a whiny episode. So I was whining about how it was crazy to me that Nintendo would release the classic consoles, which is something that clearly is a good decision, while simultaneously then making such a limited amount of them that people have to basically fight over them.
Yeah.
That seems like such a bad decision. Like, clearly you don't understand your market. Like, making it a limited, maybe not so much like, oh, the first, round of manufacturing, obviously we didn't, it would be one thing if it was like we didn't make our numbers. Like, we didn't realize how popular this was going to be, so we didn't plan on making this many.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one thing. Like, but don't worry, more are coming. We understand the demand. We're going to get more out there. No, what their original plan was this is going to be a one-time run thing. This is going to be just for like 2 months in 2017 and then be done and never make them again. And
they did some market research that said X amount of people are going to buy it, so we're just going to order that amount. And of course, Nintendo didn't know their market,
right?
How popular they are. They didn't understand the demand, and so when it happened,
we're
gonna make X, and of course, X times 1,000 wanted them.
So
that happened.
It happened, and it was so. Granted, now here we are a year later, or more than a year later, and they've re-released. You know what I mean? They made a whole bunch more, and now basically anybody who wants it's got it.
Yeah.
So that's great. That was like a reversal.
Yeah.
So, in that time as well, though, we've seen some fairly interesting controversies. So what we're going to start with, like I said, you've heard us say it a couple times now, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to say, okay, what are some examples of good decisions that developers or marketers in video games, publishers have made in the last 2 years? what are some bad decisions that they've made, and what are just some downright ugly decisions that were made. We're then going to go on and we're going to kind of analyze it. We're going to talk about, like, why do we think these decisions are made this way? What are some of the contributing factors that are driving these decisions to be made and kind of driving the direction the industry goes? And then kind of what are some of the mitigating factors? Like, where do we see publishers that are doing things quote unquote right? And what are the consistent trends that they're doing versus what are the ones who are like seem to be flailing? So yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So let's jump right into it. Let's start on a high note though.
The good.
What's good? What are some of the good decisions we've seen in the last 2 years that we think are like...
You've already talked about how Nintendo decided to circle back around and answer the fans' call to have more NES Classics made. I walked into a Walmart and saw on the shelf together both the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo Classics just there.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. They ramped up the production to match the demand and surpassed it so that you can just go into a store and find them both.
It's interesting because I feel like the classic consoles are really... I don't know how to say this, but people for a long time have been wanting Virtual Console, which is still something that...
We're going to get into the bad about that.
Yeah, I do think people want it. I think it is definitely a bad decision that they canceled it. But nevertheless, like, they did seem to pivot in a direction that also worked. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it would have worked as well if I would have been as happy with a classic console. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm like, well, at least there is still an option out there. I can go buy a Nintendo licensed piece of hardware that is designed to give me the experience of having one of these old consoles. And so at the end of the day, I still have an option to play the games. You know what I mean? Which I think is great.
Right. It's easy, like, it's a box that you can hook up HDMI to your current TV, your monitor, and it plays, X amount of games on each one. There's like 20 on the NES one, and there's 20 on the Super Nintendo one. I don't know the exact numbers anymore.
I think it's 50. Isn't it 50 on the NES and 20?
No, it's not 50.
Oh, it's not that much. Okay,
50.
all right.
And it works right out of the box. You just plug it in. It's got the controllers that match the original spec. It's a cool nostalgia feel. It has all the games in pixel perfect representation with pixel perfect sound. It's not even a thing, but the sound represented like emulation's perfect. It's official from Nintendo. It's not a third party thing. It's not some makeshift hacker's job. It's like this nice little box. $60 Nintendo Classic, $80 for a Super Nintendo Classic. Just go get them, and they work, and they're awesome.
Yeah,
and they work really well. So it was a great messaging. Reggie Fils-Aimé from Nintendo just recently, like last week, came out and said, "Now hindsight's 20/20." So this is what he's saying today, right?
Yeah.
And these classic consoles came out years ago. We've talked about them a lot on this podcast. He says the classic consoles were to fill a gap between the failed Wii U. Which I'm not quoting him directly. So he insinuated that the Wii U was a flop, which Nintendo finally is kind of recognizing that.
Yeah.
They'll never tell you anything that they make is a flop.
Of course.
Right? So the failed Wii U and the Switch. These classic consoles were to fill that gap. And that's what he said, because they were talking about a Nintendo 64 Classic and the lack thereof. And
I see.
Nintendo actually came out and said there are no plans to make an N64 Classic.
But that's weird, because
right
didn't the NES Classic come out after the Switch?
Yes. Last holiday. Right. I know. It's like, okay, so if you plan these consoles in advance to fill this gap, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of the ugliness there, but the good thing is they've made them available. That was what we're trying to highlight.
Exactly. That's what we're highlighting.
Yes.
Some of the other, I think, highlights of the last couple of years, I think, so this is a little bit more controversial, because I think you see a lot of criticism of Bethesda for this, but I think it was a smart move to announce Elder Scrolls 6, only because if you look at what Bethesda's lineup has been, was the only new games they had to announce at E3 were Fallout 76, which was a huge risk. The actual game itself is a huge pivot from what they typically do with the Fallout franchise. So that was a very risky title. And then in addition, they had a Hearthstone clone with the Elder Scrolls Blades or whatever.
That's not a card game.
I thought
Elder Scrolls Blades was a full-on like Elder Scrolls.
Oh,
game.
You're right.
Yeah.
Didn't they also have a card game though?
Maybe.
I thought maybe I'm just conflating two things. All right. Maybe. Either way, a mobile title, which either way. So that's all they really had. So to go, and I guess they mentioned Starfield. They had some. Yeah,
they announced Starfield and then they announced Elder
Scrolls 6. So.
And this is how it happened. So Fallout 76 was announced. Talked about this is going to be a Fallout Online only like always online all the time.
Yes,
games
multiplayer
as
as well, like
right.
not a single player RPG experience, which people expect from Fallout.
Drastically different from anything Bethesda has ever done. So they're stepping out, taking a risk, saying, "Hey, here's this new Fallout game. It's going to be
well."
all
To
this
be
stuff.
fair, ESO, Elder Scrolls Online,
right? But that was like when you tout you're making an MMO, you're not telling your people that you're pivoting your entire company to focus on it. You're just like,
touche.
hey, we're going to have an MMO.
Yep.
Yeah,
we're going to do an MMO inside. Yeah.
When you announce Fallout, like another entry in the Fallout series, that's unlike any other has ever done before, and it's not this declared MMO. It's this online only kind of like thing. It scares people, and people want to know what's going to happen with Bethesda. Are they changing here? So to get ahead of that message, to get ahead of the feedback, this is a very smart thing. That's why we're putting it under the good.
Yes.
Bethesda got ahead of that and said, hey, don't worry. We're making a game called Starfield, which is a new IP, and it will be a single-player, big, giant, budget, like crazy expensive RPG that will have an open world and dialogue choices and character building and all the stuff you want from Bethesda. It's going to be there. And then we're going to make Elder Scrolls 6.
Yes.
So don't worry, Skyrim fans. We're making the next one.
Yeah.
But each game is going to take 5 to 10 years to develop. So Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be 2030.
Yeah,
like,
and that's
way out there.
And that's why I said when I mentioned this one in the good category, that's why I said this is kind of a controversial one, because a lot of people are criticizing them, saying, why are you even
right? Why'd you even announce this?
Why'd you even announce it if you have nothing to show for it?
And every time you ever show up to any show, everyone's going to ask, where's Starfield and where's Elder Scrolls 6? Like, you get it out ahead of time, and everyone wants to know what's going on with those games.
Again, think that it's a promise to the fans. It's a promise that, like, hey, look, we are not going to be making all of our games like Fallout 76.
Right.
Like, this is a passion project. This is something that we're doing because we think it could be a really fun game to make and a game to play. And the results of that we will talk about later. But nevertheless, like, that's, again, you can't deny that they were passionate about Fallout 76. But they were also wanted to reassure fans that it was not the direction they're taking their company. The other thing that it communicated is it communicated that for the Elder Scrolls series, the future of it is not just reports of Skyrim ad infinitum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that is, like, again, it's a meme, but it's like a cliche, and it's a meme, but it's a meme for a reason. Because
and they're self-aware of it too.
They are. Yes, they had a nice little Keegan-Michael Key sketch that was great.
That's real, by the way.
Yeah,
the Google Home Alexa version of Skyrim exists.
Oh, is it,
yeah,
does it really? Oh my
gosh,
that's funny. Yeah, but anyway, so, like, again, all that the Elder Scrolls series has seen for, gosh, how long? It's been like 6 years now. More than that has just been ports of the same game. So for them to say, like, look, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming, is like, okay, there is a future for that franchise as well. So that's nice as well.
And it just declares company direction. It's like, we're not taking our entire company and pivoting to this online stuff that, like, Destiny is doing with, Activision.
Yeah.
And Bungie. We're doing what you want. We're not giving up. Here's our Starfield. Here's our Elder Scrolls 6. We're still doing the single-player big RPGs. Here's the message Bethesda is. That's the good part.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, was laying that kind of preemptive buffer for the backlash.
Yeah.
That was inevitably going to come.
Yeah.
What else is good?
So I was very proud of Microsoft this past year.
Dude, Microsoft is killing it.
They are. They're doing really well. For a console that I have no intention of buying,
yes, I
still have a lot of respect for what they're doing with the Xbox. And to start with, I wanted to mention how, like, their E3 presentation, if you want to hear all of our thoughts on E3, we have a very long episode about it.
3 hours.
A 3-hour episode about it. So if your dedication to the podcast is so great that you want to listen to that, more power to you. The takeaway that we had from E3 this year was, I really thought Microsoft brought it this year. Their conference, their E3 conference felt the most game focused. And what I mean by that is I compare it to Sony, their biggest competitor, and Sony's was 4 games.
4 exclusives.
Granted, they looked great. They were awesome. They were very fun games, but, like, Microsoft took the time to announce, like,
60
new games.
Insane.
Yeah, it was a ton of games, and most importantly, it was new games from third-party franchises. We got our Devil May Cry 5 announcement. We got, so there was just a lot of, like, it was fun. And then they announced a bunch of new, like, indie developers they had brought on for their Microsoft Studios project. So I really thought that, like, I liked that they were game focused. I liked that they were focused on developers. I liked that they were focused on third party. And it just felt the most like an actual E3 conference of all of them. So,
and in addition to that, Microsoft has done 4 things that cater to the gaming community at large, or what they're doing for the gamers. They've improved their brand. It's awesome. So they have Game Pass, and that's where you pay a monthly subscription fee to have access to first-party and third-party titles that agree. It's basically a Netflix solution to Xbox games. And they're putting stuff like Forza Horizon 4, Sea of Thieves. They're putting State of Decay 2. Big first-party exclusive Xbox games are all on Game Pass. So you pay way cheaper than $60. I don't remember how much the Game Pass is.
Yeah.
That's one thing. 2, they're experimenting with this new go to a Microsoft store, physical store, and you sign a contract for like 24 months to pay a monthly. We talked about this before. I don't remember what it was called, but you get a console, access to Game Pass, and their Xbox Live Gold, which is what you need to play online.
Yeah.
You get all of that for like a smaller monthly fee over 24 months, which amounts to less than how much these things would cost if you bought them separately. So that's just expanding your audience. It's all they're doing. They're just seeding more and more mass people. Like, Phil Spencer has come out and said that games sales have increased as a result of these initiatives. Like, they're actually seeing data come back and say, because the criticism against these things are, why would people buy games if you can buy a subscription, right? Why would you go buy a physical copy?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how or what the magic is, but the physical sales numbers, the reportings that Microsoft has to give as a business, are indicating that game sales are increasing as a result of these initiatives. So that was 2 of the Microsoft things. The third one was backwards compatibility.
Yes.
So they're going all the way back to the original Xbox.
Uh-huh.
They're continuing to add Xbox 360 support. If you have a disc on your shelf that's an Xbox 360 game, pop it in, and you'll have it immediately attached to your account, and you download a copy of the game digitally, and you'll have to have the disc to run the game.
Sure.
The files reside on your hard drive, and you can play all that.
Is that true for Xbox, original Xbox as well now too?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like
they're doing title by title ports because they have to modify the code to make it work.
Yeah.
But they're doing it, and
that's
it's
great.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so funny because when the Xbox One was released, their whole thing was like, we want to move 100% towards digital downloads, and they originally announced they weren't even going to have a disc drive in the thing. It's like, now it's like, oh yeah, nope, we'll still let you use your discs. That's pretty cool.
I completely forgot my 4th point.
Crossplay?
Nope.
Okay, well, crossplay is another good decision they've made. They've been making strides to. It started with Rocket League, I think. Rocket League was cross compatible with Nintendo Switch, and then eventually moved to Fortnite, which started a conversation that we'll talk about actually more with Bad, but yeah. So you had your 4th point now.
Yes. Microsoft bought a bunch of studios.
Yes.
And I want to talk about those.
Ninja Theory.
They did. They bought Ninja Theory. They bought Obsidian, which is the most recent one. They bought. I want to get a list. They bought 5 around the E3 time, and they initially bought 5 studios that they bought around E3 that they announced are Undead Labs, Playground Games, Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, and a 5th is an all-new studio called The Initiative, headed by Daryl Gallagher, the former chief of Crystal Dynamics, who spearheaded Tomb Raider. They've also bought more since then, one of them being Obsidian. So the point is, if you look at what Microsoft is doing, they are amassing a player base, an install base, through their Game Pass and their Xbox console 24-month subscription services. They're amassing studios to make high-quality AAA development exclusive titles, which is how PlayStation won. They are going to come out of the gate.
They're roaring,
ready to go.
Yep,
you can just see them like amassing a giant swell of amazing, and they're just going to come out swinging next year.
It reminds me of like I just pictured Isengard in Lord of the Rings.
You and I have very different imaginations.
The Uruk-hai being like,
I'm thinking of Goku
Saruman.
just charging, like, bah! Like he's becoming Super Saiyan 8. Like,
my fighting Uruk-hai!
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I picture, yeah.
And,
Lord of the Rings.
like Sony just announced that they're pulling out of E3, which may be a good decision. That's a kind of an iffy. We don't know yet.
Right, that's a question mark decision.
There's a whole lot of inflection. I think we've talked about this last episode of our podcast, what that means. I mentioned a bunch of points about that. But anyway, Microsoft is ready to go. They're like, E3 is our show. That's it. Like, there's no... Nintendo will have their Direct. They'll have their Treehouse. Microsoft is going to be there with all of this stuff. With whatever they're amassing right now, they're going to have the newest console, this Project Scarlet, this streaming stuff with the Azure supercomputers and cloud-based computing and all of these things. It's going to be insane for Microsoft.
Yeah, when you've lost the previous war, the best move is to plan for the next war.
Which they did.
Which they have, yeah.
They have definitely done.
So, cool. All right, well, we talked a lot about the
stuff.
good. We talked a lot about the good. Let's talk about, I think we're probably going to spend most of our time here.
The bad.
The bad. What are some bad decisions we've seen in the last 2 years? So I'll start.
Go ahead.
Going back to Nintendo and the classic consoles, the limited availability of the classic consoles was bad. Was very bad. Almost ugly, but we'll leave it in bad now because they backpedaled very hard.
They did.
The NES and the SNES classics are now pretty much available. Like,
that's what I said. You can go to the store and find them.
Yeah, I can't imagine that I would be able to go to, if I wanted to catch up and grab them, I'm sure I could go to Amazon and grab a copy.
Yep.
And I'm confident that they're going to be available in the long term. So that's why it's still just, but at the time it was such a bad idea because clearly they just misunderstood the demand for it. Like,
they misunderstood their audience.
Yeah, they did not understand their market at all. So
Right.
that was bad. But I do want to talk about some other bad decisions that Nintendo has made in the last year. So the Switch Online service is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But in general, it really is lacking severely in kind of what people want. So they don't, for number one, they don't have a built-in voice
app,
chat
capability.
Yeah, chat capability in the Switch at all, which is so dumb. I mean, like, I can list the ways it's dumb, but like, it's just not up to par with what modern gaming is. They don't. Nintendo seems to still not understand what esports. We talked about esports 2 episodes ago. They don't understand. They're trying really hard to get into esports. It seems like they're making a push for it, which is great.
Yeah,
I think it's smart for them to continue to push, especially with Smash. Like,
make it happen, Nintendo.
But especially if you're playing, like, Smash could only improve. Sure, tournaments are one thing where you're sitting next to the person, but like where people get their skills for tournaments is online. And if people are going to want to group together with their friends to form a team, if they're doing 2 versus 2, and to effectively communicate and strategize, you need voice chat, period. You also need the ability to group together, which is something that
that was about what I was about to say.
Yeah, heavily criticized about Splatoon was like, I can't just, until you get to like the league mode, which you have to be like a certain skill level to even get to in the first place.
Right.
You can't just like, I can't just play with Termite, group up with him, and play some games to like get good. You know what I mean? Like, instead,
we can do Salmon Run, I believe.
We can do Salmon Run together, but we can't. But that's a PvE thing, so like, we can't just.
It's so fun.
It is fun. We should, yeah. I need to get Nintendo Switch Online, but what we can't do is we can't just like group up together and join competitive matches to learn.
Yeah,
like,
we
and
can't
get good
even
together.
group up outside of a game.
Yeah,
which is a console thing that Xbox 360 did.
Yeah,
like how old it was that?
I can't send
2005?
messages to you. I can't like troll you while you're playing a single player. You know, like
all you can do is see that I'm online. I can and I'm playing this game.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. The features are.
Their solution is this like backwards phone app that you have to have your cell phone around, and your headset is plugged into your phone, which may or may not be able to happen because of phones removing their headphone jacks.
Yeah,
most phones are Bluetooth headsets only, or a USB-C adapter thing. So it's just this complicated, convoluted, unnecessary mess. Like, to try and just talk to your friend online.
Yep. It's
ridiculous.
It legitimately is driving people more towards third-party apps that Nintendo has A, no control over,
Discord.
and B, no investment, like Discord. Like, it's easier for me to go ahead and just pull up my laptop, slap it next to my, like, on my coffee table, and have my headset plugged into that, talk with you over that while playing Switch games.
And then we can talk between games,
but
outside of games,
all
and
of
menus, and all those things.
All of that is so much more complicated than me just being like, hey, do you want to play Borderlands, on the PlayStation? You know what I mean? Like, because then I just have to plug a thing into my controller, the very controller I use to play the game. Like, PlayStation and Xbox have made it so easy to form groups and communicate, like, over their own platform, that for the Nintendo Switch, which is a console that is built around, like, ease of multiplayer experience, it just seems so backwards to me that
is.
like I can't
And
handle
that's bad.
it. It's very bad. Cool. Let's move away from Nintendo. Oh, I guess we can talk about Smash hype a little bit. We mentioned this in an episode before, how I think that the Smash hype train was...
That last Direct?
The last Direct was unfortunate, but again, the problem started with E3.
Yeah.
Like, the problem started with their planned way of announcing it. I think Sakurai even admitted that they went that September Direct where they announced K. Rool. They announced 5 characters in one Direct.
K. Rool, Isabelle, and the Castlevania characters.
No, it was Castlevania characters, Chrom, Dark Samus, and K. Rool. So it was 5 characters, but like a little bit of a gun, like a little bit of pulling the trigger, like
too soon,
and definitely like creating expectations that because then people were thinking that 5 characters were going to be announced in October,
right? Like every month they were announcing characters, and they had this pace kind of set. Yeah.
So to me, it was like, okay, that another example of they didn't understand the market, they didn't understand the order, like what people would get hyped about, because ending on a Pokemon and a Echo character of an existing fighter was just not exciting for most. I would argue most people. So
and they just reordered what they already had. They could have made it
exactly
hit a lot harder.
It could have definitely been a lot more like exciting. So they wouldn't. It's not even like, oh, we talked about hype and disappointment. It's like I'm not just disappointed in what we got. I'm disappointed in the way they revealed it. It could have been more thought out. So that's all for Nintendo. We'll stop beating up Nintendo.
Yep.
This one was mine, because this was another one that I had listed on the original episode in the topic
idea plan that we had.
And this was from Bungie, and it was regarding Destiny 2. So Destiny 2 is disappointing for a lot of reasons, but this was my first foray into Destiny, and the major reason I didn't play Destiny 1 was because I didn't have a console for it. When Destiny launched, I still had my Xbox 360.
Right.
And I genuinely wanted to play the game and really contemplated playing it on my 360. But I was aware of the tide of things. I was aware that like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One had just come out, and that was where the future was moving. And so for me to be playing on this game on outdated hardware was only a matter of time before it was...
Right.
It was...
Obsolete,
yeah. So... I never got in Destiny 1, but again, my biggest complaint at that time was like, why isn't it just out on PC? Like, this would be such a good PC game. Like, this is clearly a game that would do well on the PC, based on it's an MMO light, it's games as a service, and it's basically like a first-person shooter. Like, again, there's no reason why this game would not work well on PC. So Destiny 2 was announced, and it was also announced to be releasing for the PC, like shortly after the console release. To me, now having played Destiny 2 and having seen how they've made changes with Forsaken, I think my argument's even strengthened. Like, they have improved, like, all things, like, from what I've heard, a lot of, like, old school Destiny players are like, oh yeah, Forsaken has improved things. Now it's basically back to where they were with Destiny 1, which is great, which is wonderful. However, it just further strengthens my argument that Destiny 2's existence is so unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. Like, why not just have made an expansion to Destiny 1? At this point, they could have done 4 additional expansions to Destiny 1 in the time.
Right. It's already a games as a service.
Yeah.
It's already an online only thing. It already continues to like block you off of old content as the servers move forward. So why not just tag Destiny 2 in as a giant patch,
as a big
expansion?
DLC? Yeah. And then also... Then they could have done, like, and again, it just seems like Destiny 2's whole purpose was, okay, we want to launch this on PC.
Yeah.
But to me, there's no reason they couldn't have done that with a big Destiny patch and said, okay, cool, now Destiny is available for all of you. Again, we've seen MMOs, which are basically games as, like, very big games as a service. Like, we've seen MMOs have the longevity of, you know, with World of Warcraft. It's now been around for, like, 14 years. So, like...
And there's no World of Warcraft 2.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep coming out with new patches. So
and they've completely rebuilt the game from the ground up, like, over and over again, including their graphics engine. It's been redone.
So why not just do that with Destiny?
Right.
And then also be like, okay, cool, with this particular expansion, we are now releasing Destiny for the PC, and then they could have had all the Destiny 1 content, because Destiny 2 doesn't feel different enough from Destiny 1 to warrant being a completely new game.
Right, there's like quality of life improvements and stuff.
If they had added classes, like new classes, if they had done, there are some things they could have done to make it more of a distinct game, but it's not a distinct enough game to really warrant that. So like, why not just do a freaking expansion and then do a simultaneous simultaneous PC launch at the same time? So that was just my, like, I think Destiny 2's whole existence is kind of a bad decision, and the reason I stopped playing it.
Yeah, I agree. The next thing you mentioned was Sony's and their Fortnite crossplay fiasco, and how this was a thing where if you had a Fortnite account and you played on PC and you logged in through your Xbox, you continued exactly where you left off, same account, same everything, nothing changed. You could log into your Nintendo Switch, nothing changed. Your phone, same deal, doesn't matter. 4 different platforms, you can log into your account, the level match, whatever, like your progression, your in-game purchases, they're all there. Everything's cool. Basically, those 4 devices are just kind of a window into your Fortnite account. Then you have Sony. If the moment you log into Sony, your stuff was there, but your account was now tied to Sony. So the other 4 devices were obsolete. You could no longer go back to any of those other 4 devices once you link your account to Sony.
Right.
That is horrible.
Yeah, the merits of cross-platform play are debatable. I'll say, just from a, like, okay, it brings up questions like, should consoles now include attachments for mouse and keyboard in order to compete?
Which
like,
Microsoft is doing.
Yeah, and well, yeah.
They are.
So again, it brings up lots of questions, and like, I would say understandable questions about whether or not consoles should be expected to, like, accommodate for essentially what is PC caliber play. However, like Termite highlighted here, the problem, what's not debatable, is hijacking people's accounts that are cross-platform,
locking them to yours,
and locking them onto your platform. Exactly.
I think Sony has backpedaled on this.
They have
fixed it.
Well, they've not only fixed it, they have also made it so that now all Fortnite players are all playing together now on every platform. Okay, cool. Like, Fortnite is now universal. So if I am playing on the Switch and you are playing on your PS4, we could be in the same game. Exactly. Okay. So gotcha. Like, it is now universal across all platforms, which is cool. It is definitely a win for people who want a cross-platform world where it doesn't matter what platform you're playing on, you can still play with your friends.
Right.
But I would imagine that in fixing that, they also fixed the issue with the hijacking of accounts. Yeah.
And I understand if you think about Battlefield, Call of Duty, Destiny, etc., where you have your PlayStation account and it's your PlayStation account, and then you have your Nintendo account, it's your Nintendo account or whatever, and you have your Xbox account, it's separate, right? They're all like separate pillars.
Yeah.
If you want crossplay between those things, to me that's more of a higher ask than with Fortnite. Fortnite's a free-to-play game. It's made by Epic Games, third-party developer. It's like, for some reason, I don't understand why. Maybe can't put words to it. I feel like Fortnite deserves to be everywhere. Same with Rocket League. Like, it's those free-to-play kind of like, like they need to be. Minecraft. They should be allowed to have like cross-platform stuff.
Right.
But some people argued like, well, you can't, move your Call of Duty Prestige account from Xbox to PlayStation. I'm like, I get you. I understand that. And for some reason, that's okay for me. Like, not being able to play cross-platform across those things, and I don't know why.
Yeah, but I would, again, if I were looking at, like, I would be more likely to want to buy Overwatch on the consoles if I could just port all of the skins and stuff that I've earned.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, the biggest reason why, like, okay, well, I'm not going to spend $30, $40 on a game that I already have on the PC.
And have to start over.
Yeah. And the same thing was true with Destiny. Destiny could have benefited greatly from like I've got friends who play on the PC now, and now I have a free copy of Destiny. It would be so great if I could just port my character over.
It's
like
free
it
on
already
PlayStation
exists. Too. Yeah. So it was, yeah. So again, but I would also have been more likely to buy a copy of it if I was able to, like, I don't have to start from scratch. That's so crappy. That's just a crappy thing. Like, that's one way or another, at the end of the day, like, I think we could have a whole episode on the merits of cross-platform.
Right.
But, like, at the end of the day, like, to me, that's what it boils down to, is, like, I don't want to start over. So I'm going to stay on the platform I started on, more than likely.
And what stinks about, like, Fallout 76 is I've got a buddy that plays on Xbox. I got a buddy that plays on PC. and a buddy who plays on PS4. I'm like, that sucks. I want to play with all three of you right now.
Yeah.
And crossplay would be a dream.
Yep, exactly.
But I understand. For some reason,
Sure.
it just makes sense. That
Yeah.
like, okay, Fallout 76 is going to exist.
Well, because you
separately on
grew
those.
up in, again, you were raised in a world that was Microsoft versus Apple.
Yeah,
You
I
were
guess so,
raised in
yeah.
a world that was, you had to,
You
just-
pick a platform,
you
and that's
pick a
yours.
platform and stick with it, but those barriers are starting to break down.
They are.
So,
Yep.
All right. So there's one more bad that I want to talk about, and it's real quick. There was an amazing game that was going to be Xbox exclusive and was going to be made by an amazing developer, Platinum Studios.
Mm-hmm.
It
Platinum
was
Games.
going to be. We were fluffing Microsoft pretty hard in the good section,
Mhm.
so I will say a bad decision that Microsoft made was to cancel the game Scalebound.
Maybe it was a bad decision.
Maybe
Maybe it was a good decision to get rid of it.
Maybe-
Maybe it was just bad.
Maybe it was a bad game,
Yeah.
but
It does stink.
all
It
accounts
looked awesome.
Looked awesome.
It did.
So to at least not give it a chance was.
Yeah.
And again, I think the biggest reason that I included it in the bad section was Microsoft's biggest weakness is their lack of first party exclusives.
Which I just talked about. They're fixing.
We did. They are working on it.
Yeah.
But again,
They're coming in. Coming in hot.
they could have. Again, it's like now they're catching up. Now they have to play catch up.
They do.
And they've had to play. That's the biggest weakness they've had for years.
Don't worry about them.
It's playing catch
They're
up.
over there like Trunks, the third party or like the tertiary character who's coming in from the future, he's charging up to be Super Saiyan 20, and he's gonna come in hot.
Are you telling me that you're gonna buy?
No, there's no trophies on Xbox. Come on, I'm a PlayStation boy. From
They
now
have
on. That's it.
achievements, yo.
Yeah, they're dumb. I'd rather have platinum trophies than just
Whatever.
some
You're gonna
random
get
score.
both. You're gonna get both, and you know it.
Usually, I acquire them all.
All
Somehow.
right. Cool. All right.
Hang
so
on, there was nothing to mention with bad. Was EA closed Visceral Studios, that studio that was making that Star Wars amazing game.
oh yeah,
They shut that down this year.
bad.
Yeah,
bad
that's
decision.
bad. We haven't talked about EA. We got to bash them a little bit. Microtransactions happened the last 2
Yeah,
years.
Battlefront 2 was
Maybe
a
that should be
mess.
under Ugly.
That's probably under ugly. So let's
Yeah.
go ahead and talk
All
about
right.
ugly.
Ugly.
Yeah, because like ugly. So when we say ugly, I would say Termite and I could probably agree on defining ugly as like this is like national news. This is worldwide.
Yeah, it's getting to the
This is like
visceral
like
feedback.
This is cringe-worthy. Like you have said things online that have now become meme-worthy
Yep.
and are just awful. So these are the ugly decisions.
Mhm.
And all right, let's talk about Battlefront 2.
Yeah, Battlefront 2 came out of the gate with the microtransaction fiasco, the pay-to-win stuff. We have talked about this ad nauseum in previous episodes of the podcast. I will not bore you with that now. Essentially, it was pay-to-win. There was a Reddit thread made that was the most downvoted Reddit thread ever.
Right. The
by
comment, the
hundreds of
specific
thousands.
comment was the major like details of the controversy. If you don't remember, were bottom line, you had to play 40 hours per character.
Mhm.
So in total of 80 hours to unlock the two most popular characters, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Mhm.
The most popular Star Wars characters in the history of Star
Everyone
Wars.
wants them.
Yeah,
Right.
everyone wants to play as them. And they like it came out right before the game launched, like weeks before the game launched,
Mhm.
that
And-
was going to be the requirement. And
Was it-
when people complained about it, their response was, "Well, we just want players to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment
Oh,
for unlocking them."
facepalm.
Except for the fact that you can also buy
Uh-huh.
them by buying these loot boxes where you have a random chance of getting that. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you contradicted yourself. So it was that comment about pride and accomplishment
Right.
that was the single most downvoted
Uh-huh.
comment in the
Yeah,
history of
yeah.
Reddit.
It was bad. It was ugly.
Very
It was
ugly.
ugly.
And again, it made national news. It has sparked a controversy that has lasted for the last year
Mm-hmm.
where people are still discussing. In fact, the FTC now,
Yeah.
the Federal Trade Commission, just this past week, it was announced that the American Federal Trade Commission has announced that they are going to be investigating loot boxes.
Yep.
In,
As a gambling
to
threat.
determine as whether or not they're a gambling threat for children, which is
Right.
something that we've been talking about on the podcast
Mhm.
for the past year.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great steps
Mhm.
because we might finally be able to, again, the biggest, why that is a bad thing for the gaming industry is if they do that, then any game that includes a loot box system will have to automatically be marked as mature, which
Right.
would disqualify any Star Wars game from continuing to be
Made.
yeah, or E for everyone. Yeah,
Mhm.
made.
Right.
Period. So other ugly things that have come out is like, so there was a thing on Reddit which was posting all of like the major like highlights of ugly things that
Mhm.
have happened, and one of them was like 2K Games
Oh my god.
was begging their customers to fight this FTC thing because they want to continue to use these predatory practices in games. It's like, no, you realize that's so out of touch. That's not, this is beyond just not listening to your market. This is this is people who don't even play games. Like, these are decisions that are made by like suits who don't even play games. When they get to the point where they're like, please defend us against the FTC who wants to prevent us from making you victims.
Yep.
Like, it's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to Fallout 76.
Oh my. Strike one. We'll just start with, how many strikes are there here? Strike one. Fallout 76 is trash, apparently. I haven't played it yet. There are people that love it. I don't understand. The frame rates are garbage. The clipping is garbage. The texture pop-in is horrible.
They're using a, 5-year-old engine?
And they've, like, patched it together to be this online thing. There's no NPCs in the system at all. There's no direction as far as, like, the multiplayer aspect of it. You log in, you're going to be by yourself because the world is huge and there's only 12 players per server. And so you're alone. And you are left to read terminal screens for lore, and there's no dialogue, there's no characters to get invested in except for some robots. And then you have some moron running up to you in proximity if you do run into somebody, screaming things in your ear while you're trying to read your Pip-Boy.
That was the single... So I
pause it.
I played the beta, and I ran to like a world. There's these like random world events you can teleport to. So they make it easy. You can teleport to these world events where all these players are getting together.
Sounds cool,
What they don't tell you is that when you get near anybody, you can't mute them. You hear whatever they're saying. So I run into this area and hear this guy be like, "Hey babe, I'm playing Fallout." He's like chewing on chips, and he's like, "Come on, play Fallout." Huh? Yeah, you want to go out later? I'm like, what? And I'm like, where do I mute this guy? There's no way to mute him. That's what I was going to
so
I quit. I stopped playing. I was like, nope.
So as a result of this game failing to meet players' expectations, there is mounting an effort to get a class action lawsuit made against Bethesda for lack of refunds, because people are trying to hit up Bethesda for refunds of their game and they're being denied.
Yeah.
So that's an ugly situation.
That's an ugly situation already.
Right.
And we haven't even gotten to the ugliest part. So let me get you some background here. We were planning to do another beer pairing episode tonight.
We were.
That was what we had listed down. We're like, we're going to do another beer pairing episode because we happen to be recording this on a Friday, and we happen to be like, oh, this would be great because we can just sleep in tomorrow. Like, we can stay up late and record this episode. So we're going to do a beer pairing episode. Circumstances of the gaming industry caused me to want to talk about this particular topic because of what happened more with Fallout 76 this week. So Fallout 76 was released with, like many gaming companies do, they did a collector's edition where you get extra fun stuff for spending more money on the game. The Fallout 76 collector's edition was $200. $200. It came with this cool, like, replica power helmet, which is
power armor helmet.
Arguably, like, yeah, it's cool. Like, for someone who wants something to decorate their game room with, that's great. Like, and from all accounts, it seems like that was okay. But in addition to the power armor helmet, it was going to come in this like high quality canvas bag. Like West Tech, I guess, is like an in-game fictional company, and so it was this West Tech canvas bag that was advertised. It's still, as far as I know, is still advertised on Amazon, still advertised at GameStop as this high-quality canvas bag.
It's like an army duffel bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not as big, but, it's
like,
an army duffel bag.
I wouldn't buy it personally. Right. I wouldn't spend $200 on a collector's edition, but I can understand people who are enthusiasts who would. So, the collector's edition, because of the nature of, like, all the extra stuff, it has to be shipped later. Right. Like, so people who pre-ordered the game would get codes day of launch, and then the game would come later with all the fun stuff. Right. That's the reason it didn't kind of crop up until like a few weeks later. Was the collector's edition started to arrive this week, and instead of a high quality canvas bag, they got a nylon piece of, like, basically a trash bag is what people were describing it as. It was this garbage, low quality piece of crap.
Yep, with that Bethesda sewed on there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, sewed on. Okay, so people were understandably upset about this, and so they reached out to customer support. the response they were given, this was the first one that came up online. I'm not quite sure, like, because they had a different response on Twitter, but the very first response that came from Bethesda was, turns out the cost of doing canvas bags for all the pre-orders was too high. So instead, we gave you all what you got, and we don't plan on doing anything about it. That was the quotable bit, we don't plan on doing anything about it. I saw memes on Reddit that was Todd Howard's face.
Yep.
With the quote, "We don't plan on doing anything about it." That was the ugly. This is so bad. This, again, you have to understand, this is straight up false advertising, because the advertisements still, like, I think on
right now,
on Bethesda's website they changed it, but on GameStop and Amazon, like,
look this up.
Like, the advertisement still shows a high quality canvas bag, and they changed it at the last second due to production costs. That is bait and switch.
Yep.
That is false advertising. So I have not heard whether or not a second class action lawsuit has been brought up or not, but I imagine it's only a matter of time.
It's on the way. It's got to be.
It's either going to be tacked on to the existing one, but more likely it's going to be an additional one because it's a different charge. It's a different problem. That's two class action lawsuits as a result of one game release.
Yep.
Ugly. Like, that is catastrophic. I can't imagine a worse situation for Bethesda to be in. So, yeah.
Yep, there it is. Westex canvas carrying bag.
Yep.
It's on GameStop's website right now.
Still on GameStop's. Yeah, Termite looked it up while I was in my last spiel.
Oh my gosh.
It is bad, guys. Like, and that is
Bethesda,
why
what do you do it?
That is why we wanted to pivot into this episode instead of doing a beer pairing, because we said, you know what, a beer pairing can wait. We can do that at any time.
This stuff is ripe for the taking.
The controversy that is becoming known as Baggate. Baggate. And if it's not becoming known as Baggate, we are going to continue to push that narrative, because it is bad. It's not just bad, it's ugly. It's so... Do I need to explain other than being straight up illegal, like, other than being false advertising, other than being a violation of the law?
Yep. It's nefarious.
It's just incredibly disrespectful.
Yep.
To
$200.
Yeah, if I pay $200 for something and I'm told that I'm going to get this, and this out of it,
and I don't get it, I'm going to be mad.
Better get this, and this out of it. Like, yeah, it's just too much. Bethesda's already accused of riding off of the goodwill of their previous launches. Bethesda has had some great launches and right after their goodwill. So, which brings us again, I don't want to spend too much time here because we're already an hour and 10 minutes into this episode. But I do want to mention Diablo Immortal as well.
From BlizzCon.
The announcement from BlizzCon. Blizzard has been riding off of the success of World of Warcraft for years now. Mm-hmm. For 14 years since the game came out. Yep. Like, I wouldn't say that Blizzard was in a bad position when World of Warcraft came out, but World of Warcraft, I mean, they definitely put them on. I mean, they had some great RTS games. StarCraft 2 is an esports phenomenon, but so they weren't in a bad position, but yeah, World of Warcraft has kept them on the map for a while, and
it's made them rich.
Yeah, and Overwatch in more recent years has also made them rich. So they're a good developer, but it seemed like this last BlizzCon was another example of them just kind of riding off the coattails of their previous success and expecting that their audience was going to eat it up.
Right.
And
do you guys not have phones?
Do you not have phones? Yeah, was the quotable bit there. That was the equivalent of we don't plan on doing anything about it, or a sense of pride and accomplishment. Like, again, the reason why we list these in the ugly section is because
they're ugly.
They're quotable. More than anything, they're quotable, as we can sit there and pull these little tidbits out of them that then become memes.
Right.
And yeah, do you not have phones? Was the comment when they asked, hey, is this going to be a PC launch? Right. No. Do you not have phones? What? It's just, but again, I think that it's another, part of the reason why it's ugly is like Fallout 76, it's just riding off the coattails of previous successes and really kind of trying to bank the goodwill of your consumers, when the reality is no, you need to make good games. The reason why you have goodwill is because you make good games. So keep making good games.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Fallout 76 was a bit of a passion project.
Right.
But
it still failed to meet what expectations they already set, which were kind of low.
Right. And the expectations of just basic decency is if you're saying hey, look, production cost of this was too high, we actually have to change it to this instead, a nylon bag instead of a canvas bag. You are obligated by the law to tell your customers ahead of time so that those who pre-ordered it can say, you give them at least the chance to say,
no,
okay, I don't
back.
want it. How many people do you think would actually have backed out of their pre-order as a result of that?
Not as much as they thought.
Not as
sure.
nearly as much as they thought. Because again, the draw wasn't the canvas bag. The draw was the power helmet.
Right.
Or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
if they got ahead of the message and sent out the emails.
Yeah, if they had said, hey, look, you pre-ordered this, but we are obligated to tell you that it's changed. The nature of this has changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good decision that they did not make. And because they didn't make this good decision, it's an ugly decision.
Mm-hmm.
So we have spent a lot more time on actual examples than I thought. So let's just, if we can give like a 5-minute version of, let's just say, what are some of the contributing factors to why these companies, that many of them are trusted companies, both Blizzard and Bethesda are great examples of trusted companies. What are sort of the factors that contribute to their fall from grace, if you will?
I would say that they get complacent. So they make decisions that are good, and they amass money and an audience, and they get to going, and they do some more market research that might be a little different, but they don't think about what they did in the past, and they're only looking ahead at what could possibly raise their stock values or increase their pockets with more money, because it's a business, and I don't blame them for that. But you lose sight of where you came from, how you earned your audience to begin with. And I mean, Sony did this with the PlayStation 3 entirely. They came out with a $600 console and basically told everyone, you're going to buy it because we're Sony and we're PlayStation. Super cocky. And now that's a hyperbolic example. But Bethesda essentially did the same thing with Fallout 76. Is like, we have Fallout. It's amazing. You guys are going to love this. I know you might doubt us, so here's your Starfield and here's your Elder Scrolls 6 to show you that we're not pivoting as a company to change directions, so we're still going to give you what you want. But here's this Fallout 76 Power Armor Edition. It's $200. We're going to make all these promises, and then they actually hit the numbers and realize it's not going to happen, and they made a false promise.
Yeah.
And so the actually
not just a false promise. They legitimately advertised something incorrectly.
They did.
And misled people into paying more for something that they did not get a return on.
And that's what happens with developers. They have all this success, and they're awesome, and they're praised, and they're relied on, and they're trusted by everyone in the industry and our consumers, and then they make a silly decision based on that complacency. And it's kind of a warning sign for everyone out there that always look where you came from. Look what you have. Look at your install base. Look at what's going on, and make decisions based on kind of that more than just the future. I mean, you have to look at your future outlook. It's part of risk over investment. It's part of business. It's part of marketing. It's part of PR. But also look at where you came from and what you did to get there.
Yeah, and Fallout 76 is just an interesting example because I don't blame them for a passion project. At the end of the day, I want games to continue to innovate. I want games to continue to change. If Nintendo hadn't innovated with Breath of the Wild, then we wouldn't have had one of the best Zelda games since Ocarina of Time. You know what I mean?
The difference is Nintendo polishes their stuff like ridiculous.
Granted, but you know what I mean? Like,
quality.
Breath of the Wild could have been panned for oh, you're just trying to be Skyrim. You know what I mean?
Nintendo kind of gets a pass.
But sure. But you know what I mean? Fallout 76 was just trying something different.
Mm-hmm. If they would have put early access on the back end of the Fallout 76, if they would have put early access on Fallout 76, this would be amazing.
Sure.
It would be the best game ever right now.
Yeah.
It's just that expectation. It's just that you expected a full AAA title that ends up a buggy mess.
Yes.
And that's why you have a class action lawsuit, because of what they promised.
Right,
They didn't deliver what they promised.
Yeah.
They promised a canvas bag, you got a nylon bag.
You
promised a polished online experience, you got a janky one. And so that's what they're fighting against.
Yeah.
And in the past, with Fallout 4, they said, here's Fallout 4, and in 6 months it's coming out, and it met that expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It's successful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
They made money.
Yeah.
Here's Skyrim. And however many months it's coming out, it came out and met expectations, and so they made money. And you further gain people's trust, and you gain market share, and you gain an audience. They just didn't do that this time.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people will criticize publishers, and probably fairly, for ruining games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about Bungie and Blizzard and the influence that Activision has had on them. There's a great article by
Jason Schreier.
Mm-hmm. That has sort of highlighted a lot of those inherent flaws with the way that Activision has been over time kind of influencing Blizzard.
Yeah.
We can probably link off to that because I think it's relevant, even though we haven't talked about it that much. But so, again, I will not counter that and say that I don't think that I do think that is a huge problem, is the fact that these publishers are coming in, buying up development studios and having a profit-minded mindset that is ultimately reducing the quality of the games they release.
The whole crunch time controversy too, which could also go back to the ugliness, because that was insane.
Yeah, and it's just so there's a lot to there's a lot to be said about that, which we don't have time for.
Right.
But I do also just want to sort of highlight the fact that it's developers. At the end of the day, developers are the ones that make the games. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the developers, I think they have more power than they think, and I think that for one, publishers need to back up. What is this industry about? What do they want? But it starts with the developer. The developer needs to say no. They need to be able to put their foot down and say you don't have a product without us. Mm-hmm. Should there be more legal protections of the workforce in that regard? Yeah, I think so. But at the end of the day, the developers are still the ones that are we make the product. Mm-hmm. You don't have a microtransaction system without us.
Right.
Sure, you don't have the funding without us too, the publisher can say, but right. I think there just needs to be more of a stand that developers make for their games.
So you want to unionize developers?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a fairly I guess leaning more towards the liberal end of things, but yeah, at the end of the day, having publishers come in and just buy these developers and then ruin all the games that they come out with is kind of a crappy thing, but I think developers have more power than they think they have. Mm-hmm. I do want to hit one last little point, which is before we end this, let's end on a sort of positive action note, which is what kind of recompense can we take as consumers to make these changes and prevent these major ugly decisions in the first place?
Don't pre-order games.
Yeah, that's kind of the start. That's definitely the start.
We vote with our wallets. That's our biggest deal. That's our biggest voice that we have as consumers. And it's not buying games. It's not buying the microtransactions. It's just refraining from all of it. You can do a little bit with social media. You can tweet some things and maybe write a good article here and there, post a good Reddit on subreddit that gets some votes. But really, it's about the money.
It is. What frustrates me, what I'm coming to realize that's unfortunate, is I could buy a game, or maybe not buy a game, just download a free-to-play game, and I could never pay a dime on microtransactions, and yet the market is leaning towards what are called the whales. Yeah. And the whales are the people who do. Mm-hmm. The whales are the 1% of the population that spend thousands of dollars on microtransactions and basically end up paying for everyone else to play the game. Mm-hmm. I can't control, even if I vote with my wallet and not buy these games, I can't control the whale from doing that. Mm-hmm.
But game companies can't exist on video games that are held up by whales. I mean, you're not going to have another Uncharted because of some whale over there in Fortnite. You're not going to have God of War 2 because of some whales on...
Right. I think that at the end of the day...
platforms.
Yeah, at the end of the day, even though I'm expressing my frustration of one person can ruin it for hundreds.
Right.
As much as I am frustrated by that fact, at the end of the day, instead of thinking about it as a negative sum kind of situation where I will not buy this game because of X, Y, and Z. I will not buy this game because it's made by EA. I will not buy this game because it has microtransactions.
Right.
Instead of that, definitely buy and support games that are good. You know what I mean? If there is a game that comes out that has everything you want and doesn't have all the things you don't want, buy that game.
Yep.
Even no matter what the circumstance. I mean, no matter what the circumstances is, obviously life circumstances, don't buy a game your wife doesn't want you to buy because you can't afford
your own budget and your own,
but
it's you.
As long as you can,
how you're going to allocate your money for video games.
Yes.
Should be on what you want.
Definitely positively support projects that you think are a good direction for game. And if you have disposable income beyond that, consider making donations to studios or developments that reach out to them and say, hey, how can I donate to you guys so you guys can continue to make more games that I like? Mm-hmm. Because that's support the ones who are doing it right, as opposed to making your whole focus about not supporting those who are doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah. A perfect example is Warner Brothers published Shadow of War Mordor,
Yeah.
Shadow of War. It had microtransactions initially when it first came out. So I said, I'm not buying it. I'm not pre-ordering it. I don't want anything to do with it. They came out with a giant patch this past summer that removed all microtransactions from the game and reshaped the entire Nemesis system from the ground up to like patch all of the microtransaction influence out to give you a concise experience. They also, GameStop, which is a retailer, put the game on sale for $10 new. So I immediately went to GameStop and bought it for $10 new.
Yeah.
One, GameStop ate that difference in cost, not the studio. The studio got the full price of that game. But two, I voted with my voice, my wallet, was I'm willing to buy a new copy of your game because you removed microtransactions. Good on you. You earned my money, even though it was only $10 of my money. Yeah. They still got $60 from GameStop. But, you know.
Yeah. Well, and again, as much as I think that, yes, voting with our wallet is our strongest means by which to make our voices heard, but, like, also make your voice heard. And again, in a positive way. Like, obvious, like, in the long run, an ounce of praise goes a lot further than an ounce of, or than a pound of, like, discouragement. And again, my favorite game for the past year was God of War.
Yeah.
And every opportunity I get to anybody who has a PlayStation or is...
Please go buy God of War.
Or is considering getting a PlayStation, I say, go get God of War. Go play God of War.
Yes.
Like, because, again, your influence... You know, we think about this a lot as podcasters. We want to become influencers, but the reality is everybody's an influencer. Some people may have more influence in certain theaters than others, but like at the end of the day, everybody's an influencer. You have people around you that you influence. So like, if you think a game is good, go tell your friends that you think it's good and tell them why it's good. You know what I mean? Like, begin to create and have the conversations and begin to create the culture that says, these are the things we want in games, and these are the things we don't want in games.
And the gaming community at large does that. And Battlefront 2 was not sold well.
Definitely an
Fallout
example.
76 is obviously flopping because 11 days after it came out, it was on sale for $35. So clearly that game is not doing well.
Yeah.
And that's how we voice our opinions too.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Whew. This is one of the longer episodes we've ever recorded.
Well,
so.
you have some stuff to edit out.
Well, yeah. Cool. Let's end it there. And we want to hear from you guys. What do you think are some good, bad, and ugly developer decisions over the past 2 years or more? What are some other examples that you guys can think of, maybe even further back? And yeah, you can reach us on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram at socialmedia.com at 80bit Podsmash, or you can go to our landing page at 80bitpodsmash.com, or you can email us at 80bitpodsmash@gmail.com. So yeah, let us know, give us some feedback, and we'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
We will see you next week.
Yes, until then, have a good week.